It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, end zone. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Welcome on in to the Full Court Press second hour here with Jason Walker and Eric Frandsen on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, streaming online at 1069thefan.com and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app. And wherever you get your podcasts, you can find it on our website, 1069thefan.com, and wherever you get your podcasts, just search for the Full Court Press. You can find our humble little show. Talked a lot about college football in the first hour. We're going to be shifting right into college basketball as we've got Utah State Associate Head Coach Eric Haut on with us today. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, fellas. Appreciate you guys having me on.
First question, actually, is
Sure.
Am I saying your name right?
Yes, it's out with an H in front of it. Yep. So
Okay.
you had it right on the money, my man.
All right, because I'm always worried, because I'll say a name. We were doing this with Luke Kearney, and we've done it with other players. I say it one way, and then it's it turns out it's different, and I have to practice it.
People's last names are a bit of an adventure for Jason.
Well, we didn't. Dexter Acano. Was it Acano? I remember him changing his last name. I felt like at the end of the year, I'm like, Dex, I didn't know that's how you said your name.
Just sometimes you just got to figure it out. It's also weird because I think I remember you introduced yourself to me, and then I shook your hand. I don't even think I remember if I told you my name. So it's just kind of weird. It's introductions are tricky for me sometimes.
I get it. Me too.
But we're glad to have you on the show talking men's basketball. Obviously, a lot of excitement for this upcoming season, coming off of a really solid year for you guys. A lot of new players to get to know. We've had a chance to talk to them. Of course, you're obviously not a newcomer. You were with the team last year as an assistant coach. I guess technically now my second question. What's kind of been the difference for you guys as a staff, the approach to this offseason as opposed to last offseason, if there is a significant difference in how you've been able to approach now that this is your second year with the program?
Well, I think last spring and summer, I wouldn't even consider it an off season. It felt like the season, just because everything was new, staff was new. We're going to play a different way on offense and defense. A whole new team, besides, obviously Ian and Mace and KT and a couple other returners. But we were just, we were our heads were spinning, we're trying to get our families moved out there. So there was just a lot going on last off season. We had the foreign trip, so we had to prepare for 10 practices, 3 games, had a week in between the foreign trip and school starting. Then we were right into the season. So, this summer, obviously we're a lot more familiar with each other as a staff. I think that's one thing that we have great staff alignment. So we're all on the same page. We kind of know what to expect in terms of what we want to cover throughout the summer, and so instead of hashing that all out like we did last summer, we kind of already had an idea. And then without the foreign trip, we went 3 weeks on starting in June, went a week off around July 4th. Then we went 4 weeks, and then our guys just got 3 weeks off before school starts. So I think everybody's gotten a lot more time to kind of recharge after our 7 weeks of summer. So we should be able to hit the ground running in August, where last year we kind of had to take 2 or 3 weeks off before we started back up. So it was mid-September because of the foreign trip.
Coach, you kind of alluded to the staff. There's been a few minor changes to the staff, but also some additions. Just how's that kind of worked out this summer, and how maybe that realigns maybe some guys or changes the responsibilities with some of the guys that have been there?
Yeah, I'll be honest, with Curran and Johnny, it was a seamless transition. From the first day they stepped foot on campus, it felt like, we had worked together for years. And I think that's a credit to Coach. Coach knows himself. He knows his staff. He knows the types of guys that work well for him. And I thought he did a great job with the 2 hires that he made. Number one, they're great people. You know, they got great families. They're great with players. You know, they both bring a different skill set. And there will be some changes in terms of staff responsibilities. Some guys are on defense will go to offense. You know, some guys are on offense, might move to defense, just because coach is always trying to help his staff kind of develop as coaches. So he doesn't want them to get pigeonholed on one side of the ball or only coach one position, whether it's point guards, wings, or forwards. So he's always kind of, you know, moving guys around to help them develop into being an all-around coach.
So, Coach Haut, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about this, because obviously the biggest concern from the fans right now is we're not seeing a non-conference schedule. And I'm wondering, like, I don't know how much role you have in building the schedule, but just talk about, you know, some of the challenges, because one thing I've heard is that there's still like a quarter of the Division I teams that don't have their schedule out yet. So it's not like Utah State is entirely unique. Like, what challenges have come up as far as kind of finalizing that schedule and getting it all out there?
Well, I think, you know, some of what made it hard this year is that, you know, we beat Iowa. We beat one at St. Mary's. So teams aren't as willing to play us like they probably were last year when they knew we had a new coaching staff and pretty much a whole new roster with a lot of guys that left, besides obviously Ian Mace, KT. You know, so I think that we're more of a known quantity. And then I just think with the scheduling with the quads, you know, we talk about this all the time as a staff. These Power 4 schools, they want to play each other in the non-league. Whether they either want to play a quad 4 that they can win by 50, or they want to play another quad 1 because it really doesn't hurt them analytically. So, like, we're not a great game for those teams. So that makes it hard. That makes it challenging for us because we're trying to schedule quad 1s and quad 2s in the non-league. So that's why you've seen us have to go to some neutral sites that could, you know, potentially get into that quad 2, maybe a quad 1, because we're playing on a neutral. I think VCU was announced in Frisco, Texas. We're hoping that's a quad 1. At worst, should be a quad 2. Illinois State, I think that's going to be at the Delta Center. Hopefully that can move into a quad 2. They're like a top 90-ish team, you know, preseason. So, you know, that's where we've got to get creative scheduling-wise, because we're not getting those quad 1 opportunities on neutral sites against Power 4s. So we got to find like-minded opponents like a VCU, you know, St. Mary's last year, teams that we think can get into that quad 2, quad 1 range on a neutral site.
How close are you? Are you one game away, a couple of games away, at 80% there, 90%
honestly,
there?
We're like 95%. We're just, you know, until the contracts are back, you know, the games have been agreed to, but, you know, you got to go through legal and you got to make sure the contracts and everything's worked out that way. But it's pretty much set. I'd be shocked if it's not released next week, early next week.
All right, we're going to hold you to that.
Yes, I'm marking this down.
And if it's not, you can blame Coach Asher.
All right. There we go.
You blame him.
There we go. We'll put the blame on him there. So I don't know how much you can talk about the exhibition games. I know one was kind of announced, like San Francisco, I believe it was, kind of released their schedule, and you're on there as an exhibition. There's been a report of another. I don't know if you want to talk about that or not, but like I kind of wanted to talk about your approach to these exhibition games. They're more public than the old like secret scrimmage, because obviously these are two. You know, they're freebies. You don't necessarily have to worry about the result. How do you kind of approach those in terms of preparation for the season?
You know, I think it's, you know, we used to have the 2 closed door scrimmages. That allowed you to play like maybe 40 minutes, and then you could play an additional segment, maybe for guys that aren't in the like top 8 rotation, or you could do special situations. These are more game-like, obviously, these exhibitions. So we're going to get a dress rehearsal for a road game. Right? When we play at San Francisco, we're going to be under the lights. They're going to have a crowd there. So, you know, we'll get our guys used to what a road game feels like, what it looks like, what our schedule's like, what the itinerary's like, you know, get all the kinks out with that trip to San Francisco. And then we'll have a home exhibition game, I believe, the week before San Francisco. So then they'll get a feel for what a home game feels like. So then when we tip it off, you know, in our opener, and then we go to that neutral site at VCU, our guys kind of have a feel already that first week of what it's going to look like. And just when guys are more comfortable and kind of know what to expect, you know, obviously there's less anxiety, which will allow them to perform at a higher level.
We're talking to Associate Head Coach Eric Haut with the Utah State men's basketball program. Another question for me about scheduling, Coach. When did you guys start catching wind that Grand Canyon could be wedged into your conference schedule? You had to make room for them this upcoming season.
You know, I would probably say about a month before it actually hit social media, but we were told there's no truth to that.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, but we had heard rumblings about a month out, you know. But, you know, when you ask the league office, you know, it's like, no, that's just speculation. And then it just happened, you know, and then, you know, the day before it kind of leaked out and then everybody knew. So we were actually hoping that it would happen, to be honest with you, because we felt like, you know, with so many new players this year into the Mountain West, we didn't know what the league was going to look like in terms of how many quad 1, quad 2s opportunities we're going to have in league. And, you know, I think Grand Canyon on the road's probably going to be a quad 1, quad 2. And then when they come to our place, if we play them twice, should have at worst be a quad 2. So we think that them being in the league is just going to help, you know, the analytics of our league scheduling wise. So like for us, we prefer Grand Canyon to come in this year rather than wait a year.
Shifting to talking about your team a little bit, some of the players. This actually comes from our text line, one of our listeners. I'll ask it. It's two questions, but I'll kind of ask it in combo because they're fairly related. But he asks, which returning player has made the biggest improvements in their game so far this offseason? And then along with that, which freshman is most likely to have an impact role this season?
You know, I would say Drake Allen had a phenomenal summer. You know, out of all the returners. I mean, Mace, you know, his level is so high all the time. It's almost unfair for me to say him because he's just always at a high level. You know, but I would say Drake Allen had a really, really good summer. A lot of consistency, really focused on the defensive end. We've really challenged him to become a better defensive rebounder for his size and athleticism. You know, was consistently good, not occasionally great the whole summer. Just, you know, kind of knew what we were getting every day from a leadership standpoint, from an energy standpoint, just brought it every day and really focused on the things that we kind of laid out for him in the summer of what we need him to kind of improve on going into next year.
And then, which of the freshmen you think will have a big one? I know you got 5 of them.
We got 5 of them. I would say David Awizi had a really good summer. His first 2 or 3 weeks, I mean, he's 6'9", 240. I mean, he's a man as a freshman. Can really handle the ball, passes the ball, can make reads. You know how coach wants to play. Our forwards are going to be, you know, they're going to trigger some offense for us. So that was exciting to see. They all had their moments. Adlin El-Amin, I mean, he's a 6'9", 6'10" wing, moves like a wing. You know, has to get a little bit stronger, but can really shoot the ball. He's a good cutter. We got to just get him where he's playing with a high motor all the time, which his last 2 weeks, man, he looked like one of the, you know, top 6 or 7 players on our team this summer. So Elijah Perryman, you know, he's a really, really good point guard. He can make all the reads in a ball screen. He's learning too, like how hard you got to play. You can't take possessions off, but he showed a lot of promise. You know, Kingston Tosi and Braden Bowe, those guys every day got a little bit better. Every week you could see them get a little bit more comfortable. But I would probably, you know, David Awizi had a really good summer. Adlin El-Amin had a really good summer. Elijah, you know, good summer. Then Kingston and Braden, I think, you know, they're coming along and got better every week.
When you are wrapping up practices in the summer and you know you're going to have some time off, how much are you giving them instructions specifically? Like when we're not with you, you need to be on your own. These are things you need to work on your own. And how much of that, how specific do you get with some of these players? Or is it, you know, keep your cardio up and get in the gym when you can, and then when we get back in campus, we're going to hit it when we have those structured practices once again?
Yep, I think that's where coach is really, really good, is like the communication between him, our staff, and our players is constant. So we meet with each guy probably once every couple of weeks. So even during the summer and then during the season, and it's kind of like just not a state of the union, but just kind of where you're at, what you've done well the last 2 weeks, what you need to get better at, where we see you right now in terms of rotation. We watch film with them. We go through their analytics. We break a lot of things down for them. So they always kind of know where they stand as a player. And then, the other side of it in terms of you have 3 weeks off between the end of the summer and coming back to school. Well, all our guys on our roster, for the most part, they want to be pros. So pros come into camp in shape. They don't use camp to get in shape. So that was kind of our message from Coach is like we had a really bad practice, honestly, our last day of summer, and Coach was actually happy about it because he wanted these guys to go home a little frustrated because he felt like, we fizzled out towards the end of the year last year, and that's kind of what happened this last couple days of the summer. And so he wants these guys to come back, with a certain mentality like that's not going to happen again. But in terms of just, these guys know the expectations. They know the standard individually for the team, and they know when they hit campus August 25th, like we're ramping it up right away. So you better come in shape.
You mentioned kind of fizzling out at the end of last year, and I feel like the defense, played a big part in that, where the defense wasn't quite where it was at the beginning of the season. I know there's some rumblings from the fan. Obviously, we talked about on the show the matchup zone defense. There's people thinking it's a bit of a gimmick and wasn't working, want to go play man. I just want to get your thoughts on that in, either, defend the system or just thoughts on continuing that system this year with this team and how well it should work. Or
how it evolves.
Yeah, or how it evolves with this new team that you've got.
Yeah, well, me and Coach, we went back and, we watched every defensive possession for the whole year together. We put some breakdowns together, things we need to improve on. The one thing I will say, it doesn't matter what defense you play, you better be good at guarding the ball. You got to keep it out of the paint. You got to be good in your ball screen coverage, right? You got to play physical without fouling, and then you got to finish possessions with a rebound. I don't care what defense you play. And if you watch our games, we had guys that struggled to guard the ball. We weren't great in our ball screen coverage, so we've been looking at that. We didn't rebound it well because we did play 4-6-3 guards and a 6-6 center when KT was at the 5. So we were one of the smallest teams in our league, and so we looked at those things first, right? Like, okay, where do we really need to get better at? We got to get better at guarding the ball. We got to get better in our ball screen coverage. So we're going to look at that. How can we change that? How can we get better? We got to really emphasize not fouling, right? Guys, teams went to the free throw line way too much, right? We need to simplify this. I guess it's not really a zone, guys. It's really switching man-to-man with some zone principles, and that's how it's going to look this year. It's going to look more man-to-man-ish, and then we're going to play more man in general. So, we're going to make some adjustments, on the defensive side because we got to be a top, 70, 60 defensive team this year. And then offensively, obviously, try to be in that top 30 to 50 range. But it's going to look different this year, and part of it is our personnel. Our personnel is different. We got a lot more length. We got a lot more athleticism. We're bigger inside. We got some guys that actually know the system now, so there's some continuity in terms of the way the defense is. Like, I'll say this, our returners, we didn't play fist pretty much all summer. Kind of introduced it in some ways, like our switching concepts, things like that. Worked on a lot of ball screen D, worked on a lot of one-on-one defense, keeping the ball out of the paint. But like our 5 returners, like, Coach, when are we going to start playing fist, man? When are we going to start playing fist? So, like, there is a buy-in there. There's an identity there. But it will look a little different this year, and we will play more man-to-man.
Coach, last question for me. You guys have an awesome event coming up in September with Coach Joe Mazzulla coming to town, Neemiah Queta, Sam Merrill. How did that come together, and how can people participate in that?
Well, Coach Calhoun, obviously, he was in Joe Mazzulla's wedding. He was the best man at his wedding. Coach Paul is the godfather to Joe Mazzulla's son. And they worked together, right? Joe worked for Coach at Fairmont State. So that and he played for him at West Virginia. So that relationship obviously runs deep. Coach did something similar, I think, at Youngstown State, and he thought it'd be really cool to do it at Utah State with the tradition and the care factor that the Logan community has for basketball and our athletic programs there at Utah State. So he's like, let's get Joe to come out. Let's get some of our Aggie pros that we have to come back. Right. So, Keita, obviously, Sam Merrill's going to come back. Scotty G's going to MC. We're going to have other former Aggies in the building. They'll be at the separate tables and former coaches. So I think it's going to be a really, really neat experience for all these different eras and generations to kind of connect. And I think the way you get involved is you can email Coach Paul Molinari. His email address, it should be on the website, but I think it's paul.molinari, MOLINARI at usu.edu. To get all the information for that, it's September 10th. We're selling tables. There's a VIP event before that. There'll be a Q&A towards the end. So it should be a really neat experience with a lot of former Aggies, whether it's coaches, players, then obviously Coach Mazzulla being there, an NBA champion head coach that has a great approach to the game. I think it's going to be a really neat night in Logan that night.
It's a lot of star power there.
Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I'm looking forward to learning from Coach Mazzulla. I got a few questions for him. So
there you go. I'm sure there's a lot you can learn from him. And
oh man,
yeah, definitely. That's about all the time we have. Thanks so much again, Associate Head Coach for Utah State men's basketball, Eric Haut. Thank you for coming on the show and letting us ask you some questions and learn a little bit more about this team, this Aggie team that we're looking forward to seeing this upcoming season.
Yep, no problem, guys. Appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break. We'll be back after this here on the Full Court Press.
The Rodeo Day sale is still riding strong at West Motor Company. We're talking the best prices of the year on every vehicle on the lot, including Ram Heavy Duty, Ford Super Duty, F-150, cars, and SUVs. Right now, save up to $10,000 off Ram Heavy Duty. No gimmicks, no bull, just straight shooting deals. And with every purchase, get free rodeo jackets while supplies last. This is it, the biggest sale of the year. Rodeo Days at West Motor Company, celebrating 80 years in the saddle. It ain't our first rodeo, but it just might be the best one yet.
Les Olson IT is your source for top quality technology. We carry the latest desktop and laptop PCs in stock, configured to your specific needs, and backed by our award-winning support team. And if your business demands high-performance hardware, we offer custom-built computers that can tackle any task. We also offer great computer accessories like monitors, keyboards, speakers, Fujitsu document scanners, and more. Get a quote today. Les Olson IT.
Hello, Cache Valley. Did you know the Sportsman on Main in downtown Logan has bike and tube rentals? That's right. The Sportsman has kids' bikes, bikes for cruising around town, hardtail mountain bikes, and full suspension electric bikes for rent. If you haven't ridden an e-bike, you are missing out on so much fun. We can even give you ideas where to ride. If you need to rent a tube or many tubes for Bear Lake, Hiram Dam, or the Narrows in Idaho, we have those too. Come to the Sportsman on Main in downtown Logan for your summer bike and tube rentals. Tons of parking in the back.
Hey, it's me, the regular dad. I ask guys like you a few questions, a kind of parenting test. So here goes. What is this sound? Yeah, that's a tough one, isn't it? That's the sound a young teenager makes when he's done something he regrets. Maybe he got caught up in peer pressure, tried a few drinks at a party, and the next morning, well, he makes this sound. Kind of a sad sound, isn't it? Hear the embarrassment, the reluctance, the pulling away? If you recognized it, then you know exactly what to do. Listen. It might take a long time, a drive together, or a walk that turns into a talk, and that turns into an arm around his shoulder that means you understand. That's when you can really talk, when he knows you understand. Then the both of you can figure out how not to make the same mistake again. I know it's tough. Keep at it. You're doing great.
This message brought to you by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
It's the Full Court Press, weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Valley Heating and Air Conditioning wants you to feel the love as they give away and install 5 new furnace and air conditioners to families in need. They're donating HVAC systems, equipment, materials, and installation services to help deserving families who need a little extra support, and Mountain Valley Heating and Air needs your help to do that. They need you to nominate a family in need today. They're only open for like another 11 days through August 31st. They're going to select 5 families between September and October, and you can nominate a family by going to mtnvalleyhvac.com. That's MTN, it's like the abbreviation for Mountain, valleyhvac.com, and click the Feel the Love tab. Again, that's the Feel the Love tab. You can nominate a family in need who can get, again, free furnace and air conditioner system. I want to thank Coach Haut for coming on the show. A really fun interview, a lot to talk about. We learned who we can blame if the schedule doesn't come out next week.
Just waiting for the ink to dry on some of these contracts.
That's just how it can be, because they'll think they've got it, and then suddenly a team backs out for whatever reason, and then they're back to square one trying to get another team. So I believe they have 2 games they need on their schedule. Their regular season schedule. And there's, as already reported, they're going to San Francisco for an exhibition. The report is that Seattle's going to come here for an exhibition. And the ink may not be dry there because I left it open for him to talk about it, but he didn't mention Seattle specifically. So who knows? It's probably going to happen, but it may be another situation where it's like, who knows?
Yeah, it could be just a matter of days before we get that early next week.
Yeah, sure. We're looking at early next week now.
When would we meet with them up in their offices?
In May.
It was in May, and they're like, "Yeah, we're just about got it done."
They were really optimistic back then. I guess things went south. Things went south pretty quickly. And again, it takes 2 to come together, and they're not always. You don't always end up on the same page as the other guys. So. They probably were justified in thinking they were done, and then suddenly they weren't.
Yeah.
And it was a lot harder for them. And, of course, they've also got to have the conference schedule. Of course, that's pretty easy to come up with. You're going to play 20 games. At this point, it's just a matter of who are you going to only play once. Because now the Grand Canyon's in there. You're going back to the old play everyone except a couple of teams. You play everyone twice except for a couple teams. They only play once.
Yeah, it'll have to revert back to the old scheduling model and exactly how that works, how many teams get left out, and then who makes the arguments. They never went to Lawler.
Yeah, who's going to whine the most about somebody not having to play somebody twice or not play somebody on the road?
Yeah.
Place your bets now.
It'll probably come from Boise.
That's where it usually comes from. Or just the genius line of you have the team at the top. Oh, they have the easiest conference strength of schedule. I was like, well, no dip, Sherlock. If you actually think about it, you could, if you look at the conference strength of schedule, in conference strength of schedule, it is almost reverse the standings, and that's your, strength of schedule. Because if you're at the top, you don't have to play yourself. So, of course, you had an easier strength of schedule.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you don't have to play the top team in the conference.
No.
Who would have thought?
Amazing.
Such logic. We got the top 25 Aggies for this hour. We talked about Javen Jacobs last hour. We've got another player to reveal this hour. So let's get straight to that with our next player on the top 25 Aggies of 2025.
The Cache Valley Media Group's annual Top 25 Aggies continues today with our next player reveal. Up next is linebacker John Miller. Miller is a 6th-year senior who stands 6'1", weighs 225 pounds, and wears the number 20 jersey. He spent 4 years at Oregon State before transferring to Utah State prior to last season. Miller played in all 12 games for the Aggies, including 7 starts as linebacker, and tallied 53 tackles, 2 sacks, and 5.5 tackles for loss.
I really like John Miller.
Yeah.
I think he started out at Oregon State, transferred to Utah State last year. I think that he's a steadying force in that really important position on the Utah State defense. He is that inside linebacker. He's the quarterback of the defense. And I really like what he brings to the table for Utah State. And I'm excited for his evolution as a player as he continues to grow and impact the team defensively. But he's got good size. He's got good speed. He seems to have a nose for the ball. I really like how he kind of came along last season and continued to show signs that this is a real future linebacker for Utah State. And one more year under his belt, more experience, and a larger role for him as a leader. I'm excited to see what John Miller does for Utah State.
Yeah, I really like both of the Aggies running linebackers. Well, I like the running backs too. I've already talked about that. But, we had Bronson Olavalu on our top 25 Aggies just a few days ago, John Miller today. And, yeah, I like these guys. I like their ability to be exactly what you need to be. You mentioned the quarterback of the defense. He can be that leader. These guys that, you talk about that leadership, they were both guys who in that first round of, earning your number, they were both in that. So they're leaders. They are guys that are inspiring the rest of their teammates. So they're performing that role, and then their on-field role as far as, again, linebackers tend to be your tackling machines. I think both of them can do that. I think they can both be fast, versatile. You wish they were a little bulkier, but, you wish everyone was a little bulkier on your group of 6 football teams. Sometimes you got to sacrifice size or speed. But these are guys that I think can be physical, fast linebackers, and they're going to be able to do good things for this team. I guess at that point, it's just, can you stay healthy? But it's interesting because both of them, weren't playing a whole lot early in the season. And then late in the season, it was those two, Olavalu and John Miller. Those are your linebackers by the end of the season. And they're going to reprise that role and do it for a full season. I think both these guys can be 80, 90, tackles in a season type players.
Yeah, I liked how, as the season progressed, things really started to click for both of those guys. And now that's building into the offseason and coming into this year where they can both have a significant impact for Utah State defensively, where, there's a lot of new faces, and it's nice to see a familiar face at a key position. But it's not just he's earned that position because he's been around. He earned that position because he was playing that position very well. And so He's also shown the ability to make plays in the backfield and get after quarterback hurries, tackles for loss. So he's a guy that the game is coming more to him, and is understanding how he can affect the defense and attack opposing offenses.
So that's John Miller, the next entry on our top 25 Aggies of 2025. We'll conclude the reveals at the end of this week. As everything kind of lines up, I'll also have my opponent preview series that'll end this week, because next week is game week. And the preseason's over at that point.
That's right.
So, let's talk about something that's happening this season, as we've got the college football playoff.
Yes.
And there were some announcements to changes that they were going to make to the ranking criteria. And I looked over this a little bit, but kind of the main thing, and there was some reporting that this was going to happen, you could see this coming. But they're essentially trying to, not just because there's the human aspect of this voting, but they're trying to systematically include strength of schedule, and mathematically include strength of schedule into their selection criteria much, much more than they were before, because obviously that's what the Big Ten and SEC want.
Yeah, so it's called record strength. It's a new part of the metric that they use to evaluate. And so as you said, it rewards teams who beat higher quality opponents. If you lose to somebody, but if they're a good team that have that schedule strength, you're not penalized as much for that game. So again, it's a way to recognize and distinguish between teams that have good records versus good opponents, versus teams who have good records versus a powder puff schedule. And so they can say, look, this team, as we've talked about earlier, they may not have the best, most stellar overall record, but who did they play? Did they play a tough competition? Should they be punished for playing a tough schedule versus somebody who scheduled soft but won a bunch of games?
But here's the thing. Who determines how tough your schedule is?
Yeah.
That's the trick in all this.
A bit of a trick there, yeah.
So that's how all this goes. Now, mind you, have a pretty good idea of who the better and worse teams are, but yeah, it's still biased. It's like how the college football playoff committee has done this trick before, where it's they end up justifying one team's inclusion by ranking one of the opponents they beat later in the rankings, and they'd be, oh yeah, they beat our number 25 team, and that's why they're ranked number 11 as opposed to this other team. Whereas you look at the AP poll, and it's like maybe those teams are flipped and whatnot. So they know how to finagle things.
Here's where I have concern about this new metric. It also gives you just a minimal reward for beating a lower quality opponent, but it will impose a great penalty if you lose to one. So the risk of a P4 program scheduling a G6 program is higher. So this will only prompt them to schedule other G4 schools, because the risk to lose to a G6 school is higher. You get punished. If you schedule one of those teams and they happen to surprise you and play well and beat you, essentially the penalty of losing that game is greater than the advantage of beating a team like that.
So you think that ends up decreasing? Because the bye games are going to stick around because those guys played those games, the Power Four played those games because they're confident they'll win, and they're usually right about that. But you think there's less of them? Because in college basketball, we just talked to Eric Haut, and he was like, the power conferences only want to play each other.
Yeah, so it's conceivable that Boise State might have a hard time. Fresno State, Colorado State, teams or UNLV like this last year, they might have a harder time getting some of these games scheduled, whereas Tennessee would be happy to schedule Nevada and New Mexico because it's unlikely that they're going to beat them. But if they schedule Boise State or a hot UNLV team, I don't know. I mean, that there's a greater risk of losing to those teams. It hurts you probably more than it gives you advantage of stacking a win.
So it'll be an interesting thing to see if that has an impact or if it's just, I feel like it's just reinforcing what they must have already been doing. Cause they already take into account strength of schedule and they already think about this stuff. Maybe they're just being like, oh, maybe it's just a PR move. Like, look, we're going to consider it more just to placate some of the fans where it's like, again, there's been people whining about the playoff format. I don't know why it's not that bad. I wouldn't even say it is bad. It's just, but some people are just never happy. So
yeah,
maybe this is just them trying to throw out an olive branch. Be like, it's functionally, I don't know if it's going to change. If it is changing to a significant degree, I think that could be something to keep an eye on. Whether you get fewer P4 teams doing games against kind of the upper crust of the G6, where they'll be less likely to do it, or maybe they'll pay them less money for those bye games because there's that increased risk. So something to keep an eye on there. We got to take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the NBA. Utah Jazz, some grades being handed out for their offseason moves. What grade did The Athletic give the Utah Jazz for what they've done this offseason? We'll talk about that next here on the Full Court Press.
While you're making memories this summer on the lake, in the mountains, or around the fire pit, Adams Wealth Advisors is here to help you plan for days to come. Adams Wealth Advisors loves being your trusted neighbor and believes that smart financial planning is the key to a life well lived. Whether you're nearing retirement or just getting started, let Adams Wealth Advisors build a plan that gives you peace of mind today and tomorrow. Google Adams Wealth Advisors for a free consultation today. Local roots, lifelong guidance.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. A few years ago, I saw this sign hanging in a gas station. It said price, quality, service. Pick 2 out of the 3. Now, it's funny, and I did laugh, but at My Mattress, we don't even want to do business unless we can do all 3. Price, quality, and service. We have a 90-day sleep guarantee, 90-day price guarantee, and we will answer the phone if you have a warranty concern. At My Mattress, we deliver, we have financing, we strive to be price, quality, and service every day. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally? Only at My Mattress.
At Mountain Valley Heating and Air Conditioning, Feel the Love is more than just heating and cooling. It means giving back. 5 complete HVAC systems will be donated to a deserving person or family. Feel the love and nominate that person or family in need at mtnvalleyhvac.com. Nominate prior to September 1st, 2025. See website for all details.
I'm Jessica, and I am a brain cancer survivor. When I was 11 years old, I spent a lot of time at my local children's hospital for brain surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation. When I was in the hospital, I had no idea how much the medical bills were costing my family, and the insurance didn't cover all the equipment and treatments I needed. Thanks to donations to my hospital, I received amazing care and was able to kick cancer's butt. Today, I am 16 years old, and I am so excited about my future, where I can graduate from high school and become a professional speaker to share my story and give back to Children's Miracle Network hospitals. I believe if we donate to children's hospitals, we can change kids' health and change the future. You can help too. Give now at childrensmiraclenetworkhospitals.org and put your money where the miracles are. Thank you.
Breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Young Power Sports, not only do they sponsor our text line, they also have the biggest repair shop for your power sports toys, really, your motorized toys. Got a great big shop that can handle repairs. They also have a lot of parts on hand, whether it's Can-Am or Polaris. If you've got any issue with your vehicle, they know how to fix it. Go check it out at Young Power Sports of Logan, located on the south side of Logan. They sponsor the Young Power Sports of Logan. Text line 435-339-0321 for anybody who wants to chime in.
Did we have any text? Oh, okay.
We had a few from 9315. I don't think we got to, but talking about UNLV and kind of where they think they belong in the world. But yeah,
with all the because we were previewing UNLV last hour, so we had our football preview of Utah State opponents, continuing that series, mirroring my written series. My UNLV preview came out today. We're finally in line with my release on the article. Versus what we do on the show. We'll have Fresno State tomorrow, and then we'll cap it off with Boise State on Friday, much like the Aggies will cap off their season against the Broncos. I did like this from 9-5 where it says if USC wins the football game against UNLV, the UNLV fans will claim it took a 5-point play to win. Their biggest complaint is they just didn't think there was a foul on that play. But,
yeah.
There was. Referees called it. So, but wanted to shift over to talk about the NBA, specifically the Utah Jazz. And they've got this little mini series about grading offseason moves for NBA teams. They had part one, which is kind of their bottom 10. Then they have, I'm assuming it was their middle 10 today.
Yes.
And then tomorrow they'll have, the rest. But the Jazz made it into kind of that middle tier today with, again, the grades that they gave to the Utah Jazz.
And more like rankings and
I guess
more than just grades. But yeah, the Utah Jazz on the top end of that tier, just missing out being in the top 10, coming in at number 11. Just praising the Jazz for their moves to clear space for their rookies, but also adding some interesting veterans. Now it's still to be determined how much these veterans will actually do anything. But Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson, Yusuf Nurkic, George Niang. So those are the veterans that have been added to the mix besides, that high draft pick, Ace Bailey, Walter Clayton, with some of the things that he's been able to do. And then some of the other players that the Jazz have been able to acquire. Yeah, they lost some players through trades or just waived or just let them walk. But the essence is that this is all about the future of the Jazz. These moves that Utah did in the offseason were to finally provide a solid on-ramp for these young players. Because in years past, there's been a mix of veterans in there that Jazz would try to prop up, improve their status, trade them for future assets. But now they're leaning in on, okay, we've done enough of that. We're going to lean in more on the youth, these young guys, and give them opportunities to play. This is all about Ace Bailey to see if he is going to be a guy that has a high ceiling and putting other interesting players around him to help them grow and start to develop into something.
Yeah, I think for a lot of fans, they wouldn't grade the Jazz this high because, like, you look, getting rid of John Collins and Colin Sexton, getting rid of Jordan Clarkson or, buying him out. And in that sense, you upset a lot of fans because the fans liked those players. They really like Jordan Clarkson. He's a fan favorite for what he's contributed to the Jazz and being kind of the last remnants of those golden years back in around 2020, 2021. But the positive thing about the thing that you would rank them highly for is, look, they're working toward a goal. I think a lot of fans assumed that there was value with John Collins and Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson, that they could get something like, Danny Ainge was holding out on getting like a first-round pick for Colin Sexton and maybe a second-round pick for either of Clarkson or Collins. And in the end, there just wasn't that value. And so I don't think fans are willing to admit. I was surprised by it. I thought there was value too, but turns out there wasn't any. So don't just hang on to that and potentially hamstring yourself with these young players by still having the mouths to feed with all three of those veterans. And sure, they still brought on some veterans, but like, is Kevin Love going to play a single game with the Jazz? Probably not. George Niang, he's going to play. Kyle Anderson, they're going to play, but like, they're frankly not as good. They're not going to get in the way because they're too good, and you have to keep benching them. They kept having to bench Colin Sexton and all those guys. And so they're not going to have to do that. They may or may not do it with Lauri Markkanen. They just may let Lauri Markkanen play because they extended him, see how he plays with the young guys. Just don't worry about benching him for, back spasms for the 17th time this season. And so they got down to business with who they want to be. They're not going to have to blatantly tank. They're instead doing the stealth tank where you just have a bad roster full of young players.
Right. You're just going to let the young guys play.
Yeah. And you're not going to win a whole lot of games because you have a lot of young players do not lead to wins. You have, veterans with experience, and talent on their side because you got young players who are talented, but they don't have experience as well. So get these guys experience, work them toward, being able to lead this team to a win. But obviously when they're young and in their first, second, or third year, you're going to lose a lot of games. But you can let them play and you can build this team without having to also manage a bunch of veterans who are upset because their careers are being ruined in a sense, potentially ruined or at least stalled by having to be on a tanking team. So you don't have to manage that potential locker room cancer. Not to say those guys were cancers, but like they obviously couldn't have been too happy with, because again, that can, derail their career or potentially end it if you end up on a tanking team and have to be benched for half the year.
Right. It damages your value and your potential for future contracts.
Yeah. So, I like where they've gone. If you were hoping that they were going to win more games this next season, hoping they were going to pivot toward win now, I'm sorry. You probably hate all these, but they're working toward, a goal. And in that sense, they succeeded.
Well, the final line which they call the skinny, besides, they give the details about the moves that happened with players coming, players gone, and who's coming back from injury. Then they have the skinny kind of their summary of the team and their moves in the offseason. The final line here from The Athletic says, another lottery season awaits, but there's a Rockets-like path back to relevance through the draft to which Utah appears to be committed.
Yeah, they got to make sure they land guys like Alperen Şengün and all the guys that the Rockets did, but it's possible.
Yeah, it's possible. Getting Cody Williams, is he going to be that much better this year after taking a lot of time off last year to develop?
If he becomes a viable NBA player at this point, he'll have exceeded my new expectations for him.
Taylor Hendricks coming back from a broken leg. He was showing early promise. So, yeah, there's still question marks about this team. Nobody should have illusions that this is going to be a playoff team. But it's clear that the Jazz are like, okay, we're going to let these guys play. They may not win a lot of games, but they're going to learn in the process. And we do have some veterans on the bench to help guide them along the way.
Yeah, and the excitement that you can draw from the season, it won't be in the wins versus losses because that's going to look pretty ugly. Just don't look at the standings. Just,
monitor the growth.
Monitor the growth. Look at Ace Bailey. Look at Walt Clayton. Look at these guys.
Things are progressing, yeah.
If it turns out they're terrible, then that's going to lead to some despair. But if they're playing good and they're showing those flashes of being high-quality NBA players, then you can get really excited and you'll have to look forward to 2 or 3 years down the line, but at least you'll have something to look forward to because, again, there won't be much to look forward to in terms of wins and losses this season. We got to take a break. When we come back, we've got conference realignment news.
There's some conference realignment news, and it affects the Pac-12, Jason.
Yes, it does. We'll have that next here on the Full Court Press.
Make it 5 years in a row. Advanced Heating and AC is honored to be named gold medalist for the best of Northern Utah in the AC HVAC category. They thank you for your support and vote of confidence in their company. You have many choices when it comes to your home's heating and air conditioning system. Make sure you choose the 5-time gold medal winning company, Advanced Heating and AC. Call 752-7272 or stop by their showroom west of DI, online at advancedheating-ac.com.
Summer is cruising by way too fast. It's already back to school time. Soon, you're going to start experiencing many special places and events that you won't forget, such as your first slide down Old Main Hill, attending Aggie football and basketball games, or a wild party at the How, and your first kiss on the Aggie Bowl. That might just lead to that extra special moment at Jarek's Fine Jewelry, Cache Valley's engagement ring store, where it's all about the romance. Just look for the bright green cars at 930 North Main Street.
Passion, enthusiasm, extraordinary skill. Isn't that what you want from a chef? From salads to seafood, wood-fired pizzas to unique pastas and succulent steaks, the Elements Restaurant chefs have spent hours creating choices for you. A casual dining experience for lunch or dinner with daily specials and menu choices that always deliver excellence. The Elements is a complete dining experience for everyday dining and for special occasions in your life. Appreciate elevated simplicity. Only at the Elements Restaurant, 750-5171.
When you take a walk around your neighborhood and notice all the things that make it feel like home, like all the houses lined neatly together in a row, or your neighbor, Miss Rita, who always waves at you when you drive down the street, or that movie theater in the strip mall that might look a little worn down, but has the best popcorn you've ever tasted. One thing might be a little harder to notice, because somewhere tucked in that neat row of houses is hunger. It could be your next door neighbor, or your coworker, or your daughter's friend from school, because over 30 million Americans don't know where their next meal is coming from. Hunger lives in neighborhoods all around us, but it doesn't have to. At Albertsons Companies and Safeway Foundations, we are on a mission to provide 1 billion meals by 2030, because everyone should be welcome at the table. Learn more at nourishingneighbors.com. Let's break the cycle of hunger together.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Drops. There we go. Had to wait for that.
That's right.
I was anticipating a little too closely, though. I thought I was online with it. I was like, another second. There we go.
Here it comes.
But yeah, exciting times, exciting music. But Eric, we've got important things to note with our show here. I had to play this. I had to do this properly. Where the heck is it? It's somewhere on here. I think it's this one.
We've got some significant breaking news tonight.
We got some breaking news.
The latest in conference realignment on the Conference Realignment and Expansion Show.
Yes, we've been parading around as a Full Court Press for a little while, but this is what we're really known about, is conference realignment and expansion. And there is some news this afternoon on that front, and it regards the Pac-12. Pac-12 is expanding. A new conference member reportedly to be announced, expected to play as a conference member in the spring of 2027. And that's Powerhouse, Dallas Baptist. Okay, so maybe if you're not a baseball fan, that name doesn't mean anything to you. Dallas Baptist, it'll be a baseball-only member of the Pac-12. They're currently in the Conference USA. All of their other sports are like D3. Small campus, like 4,500 students. But as a baseball program, this is a powerhouse program. They've regularly in the tournament. They've been the last 11 consecutive NCAA tournaments. one of only 5 active programs that can claim that. So this is a very, very good baseball program. And we know Oregon State has a traditionally great baseball program. Fresno State has had a pretty solid baseball program. So the Pac-12 is trying to build solid programs outside of football and basketball. Baseball is another one. And Dallas Baptist gets them into the Texas market, I guess. Technically,
Texas
they're in
State.
Dallas, but I don't know how many TV.
Texas State has a baseball team, don't they?
Texas State does too, yes. So that helps with that. But Dallas Baptist is a very solid program, has sent many guys to Major League Baseball. They've got a great reputation. So this is actually a little bit of a coup for the Pac-12, adding Dallas Baptist. Well, it may not be a brand name in many circles, but those who follow baseball will recognize Dallas Baptist.
I wish Utah State had a Division I baseball team.
You're not the only one. The challenge is the time of year baseball begins. It's kind of the problem with Utah State softball. Is the field ready? Can you?
They have to play
when are you going to get ready for the season?
They play the first month of the regular season on the road,
right?
Because they basically can't play in Logan for that month because it's usually still snowing. There's usually still snow on your field.
Yeah, yes.
That's your main problem there. It'd be nice, but we still love club baseball. They've got a great thing going on there with club baseball. A few other things regarding not conference realignment, but the Mountain West. The Mountain West, they've been releasing these, top 5 at certain positions. They've gotten through 6 or 8 of them now. They released top 5 wide receivers and top 5 safeties. They've done quarterbacks, running backs, linebackers, and running backs, I think, to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And the Aggies did not appear on. No Aggies appeared on the wide receivers one. There was one at number 2 on safeties. It's a little awkward because it's Ike Larson.
Yeah, you can tell this was produced before Friday's announcement.
Yeah.
But it just seeing that, it just stings, more that whatever happened. For Ike, whatever decisions that he made, I hope that he gets it figured out and can rejoin the team and show why he was deserving to have that kind of a recognition as also a preseason All Mountain West guy who was, there's a lot of excitement about him coming into his senior season and helping to anchor a defense, especially a group of safeties to help Utah State defensively have an impact.
Yeah, he's recognized as one of the best players in the Mountain West, especially on that defensive side. So, we've gone over this. It sucks to lose a player for, and again,
potentially half the season.
Yeah, potentially half the season. Again, we don't know the specifics, but he's going to be out likely for about 6 weeks.
But I hope that my hope is that whatever's going on, he's able to get it resolved with the coaches and work his way back and still have an impact on the team and on the game. Not take the shortcut and leave to go somewhere else, but to grow from this and be able to still help his teammates and help the team move forward and play well in the second half of the season.
Yeah, you want everyone to be bought in on the team, from your stars to your backups to your third stringers to your walk-ons. I don't know if they have walk-ons anymore since pretty much everyone's on scholarship, but you want everyone to buy in because that's what you brought in Bronco Mendenhall to fix the culture. And if that means suspending one of your star players, then that's
the price you pay.
Yeah, that's the way. That's the price of culture. That's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for listening and contributing on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line. Again, many thanks to Eric Haut for coming on the show. We'll be back at it tomorrow, previewing Fresno State and talking more local sports here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
You asked, begged, and even pleaded, and the heavens heard you. KLGN Logan, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.